Hello, I am Horrorama, and today I have found multiple stories about horrific encounters people have had with the strange and mysterious in the deep woods. I do hope you enjoy. The first story has been posted by TXFit. This is something that happened to my husband and I a good 9 years ago. We had gone to watch a friend's band play and were headed home from downtown Dallas. I don't live in the Metroplex any longer, so not personal info. It was around 1 AM, but we still had plans before I was expected home. We were still dating at the time. So we headed to his apartment in one of the South Dallas suburbs. This is a pretty well-populated suburb, but by the time we got close to his apartment, the roads were pretty much empty. We exited the highway and turned onto the street that led to his apartment, but as soon as we passed the traffic light under the highway, we both saw it, plain as day. Stone sober and wide awake, we both saw a werewolf-type creature exit a neighborhood street and calmly run in about 4 steps across a 4-lane road. It was about 75 yards in front of us, but it wasn't exactly the way I'd imagine a werewolf. It was completely canine. No human features at all, except for the fact that it was on 2 legs. The legs were massive, and the thing was about 7 feet tall, but the arms reminded me of a T-Rex. They were small and still hung like dog legs. They seemed very useless if the thing were trying to attack something. The head was also odd. Besides being a typical dog color, grayish-black, the eyes were bright, glowing yellow. Even when there weren't headlights shining directly in them, it didn't look like the glow animals get from lights in their eyes anyways. But the thing that stood out to me the most was that the eyes were binocular like a fish. I saw the eyes clearly, even though he was completely profiled to us. Here's a picture I drew. I couldn't quite get it right. It was a little more menacing in the head and face than I could convey, but I couldn't figure out how to draw it without making it look over the top and cartoonish. I'll never forget how fast this thing was either. Here's a drawn diagram of what happened. The road we were driving on had heavy trees to the right-hand side of us. When it came out, it was running, but crossed this road in just a few steps. It was big enough and effortlessly fast enough for me to instantly know that a human couldn't have dressed up and done this. There was no open field that he ran into. When my husband and I got into where the trees broke, we both turned our heads to look, but it was long gone by then. But only about 4 seconds had passed. I think the only thing that was said was a quiet, "What the hell?" by me. More about what this thing looked like. It was more menacing than my photo, but to be honest, much less scary than what I would imagine a werewolf to be. When it was running across the road, I didn't get the sense that it cared that we saw it, or that it was even trying that hard to cross before we got closer. I didn't feel fear as if we were threatened, only a disbelief in reality. And again, it's not like we were in a rural area by any stretch of the imagination. When we passed the tree line, his apartment complex was literally another 150 yards up the road. We hurried in and didn't exactly get to our plans. We basically just sat there in silence, trying to rationalize, I guess, what just happened. Still to this day, I often think to myself, I mean, really, did this actually happen? But as soon as I close my eyes and think about it, those bright, yellow eyes are still there. The second story has been submitted by user Sniggery. Date: June or July 1992, 5 PM. Location: Southern Maryland. This is a rather short encounter because I was riding in a car and basically saw it and rode past it. I have been past this site hundreds of times since then, but have never gotten out and walked around the area. Maybe I should. This encounter changed my life. When I read the encounters on the subreddit and hear other people's stories, I never discount them. Why? Because I know what I saw, and who am I to question someone else's experience? Sure, there are a lot of made-up stories and creepypasta out there, but I strive to find credible sounding accounts and share them with all of you. It was evening, and my family and I were coming back from Chesapeake Beach, from having dinner with my brother, mom, and dad. I was 15 or 16, and in the back right passenger seat, chilling with my brother. Riding along, I'm just looking out the window, and there is a little road that merges onto the main road on the left. So as we merge, we pick up a little speed. We are going maybe 25 to 30 miles per hour, and you have to cross this little bridge, and it's really bumpy, so we slow down even more, maybe to 20 miles per hour. Once we did that, I looked up ahead, and about 75 yards ahead, I see something standing on the wood's edge off the right a little, but it was exactly at the edge of the woods. It had both arms on the tree, just standing there, meaning its right arm was on a tree about shoulder height, and its left arm was on a tree about shoulder height. So its arms were basically spread out, with its hands on the trees. It was about 7 feet tall, maybe even taller, had a wolf-looking face, only larger, like a dire wolf from Game of Thrones. It had really broad shoulders, very muscular arms, a barrel chest, and it narrowed the rest of the way down to the abdominal area. It was dark brown, and the hair was medium length. I didn't get a great look at the legs because it locked eyes with me. It knew I saw it, and it saw me. I saw it a good distance up ahead and was like, "What the hell is that standing on the wood's edge?" Soon as I said that to myself, I locked eyes with it. I saw it for a good 15 seconds because of how far up ahead I first noticed it moving around and how slow we were traveling. Its eyes followed mine the entire time. It took my breath when I first realized what I was looking at, and my first thought was, "God, that thing is ugly." It had very pointy features, and it didn't look like a Bigfoot, but an actual werewolf. A lot of people call it a dog man, but I'm more inclined to say this was an actual wolf man. I said out loud to my family, "Did you guys see that thing?" Obviously, they were like, "See what?" Another thing, this was in southern Maryland, where there are no bears or large animals, but I asked my family over and over if they saw it, and they started getting annoyed with me. I told people over the years, but I was only ridiculed and teased about it, so I just stopped. So that was my encounter. My family still doesn't believe me either, and most people think I'm crazy or lying, so I very rarely tell anyone about it. But it was real. It was there. I just want to know the W's of the creature. Where, what, why, etc. The third encounter has been submitted by user Annelisesh. This happened on Thursday. Been looking for a place to ask questions and share this experience. I don't know if this sub is the right place. Feel free to pass my story along if you know somewhere better. This is about how far off the trail we ventured, I estimate. Not very far, as you can see. Okay, I totally understand if no one believes this, because we're still unsure of what actually happened, but we sat down and came to a consensus on the events, and all agreed we witnessed the same thing. Me and 3 buddies were hiking Thursday to Friday, various trails, mostly the known ones, and mostly during the day. Friday, we were making our way to Clark's Summit. As we were walking, one by one, we noticed that we were veering off the trail. I asked my friend in front of me why he was going off the trail, and he asked our friend who was in front of him the same thing. The friend in front of us told us, I can hear a woman talking. You guys don't hear that? We did not, in fact, hear anything. We tried to convince her to leave it be, because it was already kind of dark, and we were close to where we wanted to set up camp on the trail, and insisted that what she had heard sounded like a female calling for help, and that she sounded really close, so I think she felt inclined to investigate a possible female in distress, while we were totally okay with going about our business. Okay, I get a bit spooked now, because she's absolutely serious, and we absolutely could not hear whatever she was hearing. Here's where it got weird. We only ventured off the trail about 300 or 400 meters, yet at one point we were completely lost. We don't have any fancy gear or GPS stuff, because we never needed it. But we've been on this trail enough to know we hadn't gone far, yet we couldn't find the trail in any direction after walking for about 15 to 20 minutes. I started to feel weird, kinda dizzy or lightheaded, and when I mentioned this to the other two, they said they felt weird as well. It was like something had changed the environment around us, or moved us somehow to another location. I had no idea which way to go, and now it was fully dark. My female friend said that the woman's voice had said, "I'm over here," and "Please help me." She said it sounded like she was hurt or crying, so here we are, somehow lost, after only walking for about 20 minutes off a large trail, because my friend is hearing voices. We decided to stop walking in any direction, because the last thing you want to do at night is get even more lost. We had 2 tents and sleeping bags in our packs, so we found a clearing and set up. We figured once the sun was out, we'd easily find our way back to the trail. Before we could even lay down to rest, I noticed a tree near us was moving, as if something was climbing it. It was really dark, and I wear glasses, so I really struggled to see, so I called them over to see. I thought it was an animal at first, but it wasn't an animal. It wasn't anything. I could see the outline of what roughly looked like a human shape, but it was transparent, like completely see-through. The best way I can describe it is the way heat waves look on the pavement in the summer. You know that wavy or liquidy effect? Yeah, that's about what it looked like. They saw it too. My male buddy said, "What are we even looking at?" when he finally spotted it. They all said the same thing. It was transparent, but still visible due to the foliage around it being displaced and moving as it moved. We all just stood stone still, whispering theories back and forth as to what we thought we were seeing. I thought maybe it was some kind of optical illusion, but they both immediately jumped to aliens, of course. The thing just sat there, perched on a large branch about 50 feet up. It's like it was watching us watch it. The other oddity is that after staring at this thing for about 10 minutes, we noticed that all the normal forest sounds we heard prior had stopped completely. I mean, the only noise was us talking and the leaves under our feet. The hairs on my neck stood up and had goosebumps all over when I realized this, like something was truly wrong. After about 10 minutes of us standing there, whatever this thing was started to climb up the tree even more until we could no longer see it at all. We approached the base of the tree slowly and walked around it in a circle with our necks craned up trying to see this thing. But it was too dark, and the trees were too close for us to see the top. We didn't hear it jump to another tree, so we assumed it was still up there. We were all too spooked, obviously, to camp right underneath whatever this thing was. So we gathered our stuff and started walking towards the moon. I kid you not, after about 5 minutes of walking, we were back on the trail. I literally dropped my bag and said, "What the hell?" out loud. We all stood there confused, looking around and trying to confirm what we were seeing. My buddy liked to joke and said maybe we walked through some hallucinogenic spores and had imagined all of that. I highly doubted that, but whatever happened, it seemed kind of, I guess, predatory. Like it seems like something was luring us or trying to confuse us. My friend still thinks we were teasing her about not being able to hear the woman she claimed to hear. Was it that thing we saw imitating a woman? How do we get lost so close to the trail? This was easily the weirdest thing I've seen ever in my entire experience in the wilderness. We still don't have any good theories as to what we saw. It may not have been an alien, but whatever it was humanoid, and it was 100% transparent. Somehow, and able to climb a really large tree with ease, without making much noise at all. I would love to hear any theories about what this may have been. Has anyone else seen anything like this in the woods? I feel I should also mention that no drugs were consumed. The fourth story has been submitted by the user the_last_magician. The paranormal is fascinating. The knowledge of the occult is alluring. My older sister first introduced me to this dark world with Saturday night kid shows, and we continued our way up to shows like A Haunting and celebrity ghost stories. She would take me to the haunted railroad or Devil's Bridge. We walked a mile in the dark down the narrow road lined with willow trees. We listened for the noises that don't belong and watched the shadows around us. I thought we were brave. I thought we knew what to expect. My Nana passed away in the middle of my senior year of high school. In her passing, my family inherited some valuables and her Ouija board. My mom had an amalgamation of emotions around it. Sad nostalgia from her aunt, scared about communicating with spirits, and a slight ease that maybe she could tell my Nana goodbye. It took my mom a while to bring herself to, but she went and bought candles and sage and some general stuff with a mystical vibe. She tried a session in a friend's bathroom and they both lacked the will to push forward. Over the next year, the board lay in a box under Mom's bed. We kids had forgotten and lived our lives for another year before our parents moved out and left us the house. My older sister took the master bedroom. She spent a few days cleaning and readying it for her stuff. As she finished clearing under the bed, she found the box. Some time had passed and my older sister, Jay, for my story, organized a gathering of her friends and myself. Quietly she took out the box, displaying it to everyone before returning it to her room. We decided to go to our cul-de-sac in order to keep it out of the house. The 7 of us walked several blocks in silence down the dusty country road. The twilight hours had begun. The air was quiet and still. The day's heat still stuck to the night. Warmth emanated from the ground. We passed dark and decrepit houses, surrounded by thick foliage, tall, wilting oaks, thorny bushes and cactus. The walk alone was enough to scare some of the group. Dogs barked in the background down the hill. The loudest sound was the crunch of gravel we walked on. In this dead end, there was no pavement. It had chipped away many years prior, just rocks and pebbles in a large open circle surrounded by dense southern woods. A small dirt road laying tangent to the cul-de-sac marked the exit, making it easy to lose yourself in the disorienting darkness. We arrived and sat in a circle around the box, fashioning our phone lights around to light the box. Jay prepared the area, using the box as a stand and spacing us all out evenly. 3 at each end and 1 person to record any kind of response we would get. The darkness was thick, with overcast covering the moon and stars. It was truly black. We began, each of the 6 lending a hand to the planchette, consolidating our energy by moving it around the board in 3 large circles before asking for an audience. Hello? Is anyone there? Time inched forward as we waited, growing impatient and discouraged. Again, we circled the board, and Jay asked once more. If you can hear me, move to yes. My hair is raised as I write. We watched in horror as the wooden dial moved slightly. A twitch of our collective muscles, perhaps? Before we could question each other, it shot to the answer, no. Jay tried a different approach, asking it directly. Do you have a name? It performed a small, slow circle, landing back in no. Jay queried further. What is your name? No, no. It replied, circling both times. What do I call you? It failed to respond. Waiting a few moments, Jay started, but it began moving as if to interrupt. Quicker this time, it glided over the letters. No, 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 no. Scared, Jay threw her hand to the piece and said goodbye before moving it to the bottom of the board. We decided it was time to go somewhere else, less secluded. The next location is a story all on its own, and for another day. Although people learn more and more about the world each passing day, there are still countless mysteries yet to be uncovered within the veil of the paranormal. I do hope you enjoyed my narration, and if you did, then please do like and subscribe. But alas, I do wish you a good rest of your day.